Welcome back. Today's video is about how I lesson plan for my high schooler. My two boys are very different. While my younger son is a little bit slower to start, and so we start with an easier day on Monday and then kind of amp up his work as the week goes along, my high schooler operates very differently. He likes to start strong on Monday or the beginning of the week, whatever that looks like for us, and then taper off as the week goes along. So for him, that means a good full day of lessons, electives, all of our academic work, Monday through Thursday, with Friday or the last day of our week, because we do have co-ops or field trips on Fridays usually. So oftentimes that will be Thursday, but that last day of the week, whichever it is, usually ends up being kind of like our grading day, quizzes, the turn-in date for projects or papers or anything like that. So I wanted to take you along to show you how I plan for him, because he also has things during the day that would cut into school time. He interns at our church's, they have an internship program for homeschool middle school and high school youth. So I wanted to show you kind of how we build in those things into his school day, because as our kids get older and they want to do more, and there are opportunities for them to get out of the house and experience different things, definitely don't want to take those away, but also want to make sure that we are getting in what we need to for our lessons. So I'm glad you're here, and let's get started. So I start my lesson plans for high school the same way I do for my elementary school kiddo. And I go through and mark all of our holidays and field trips and co-op dates and stuff like that. I also have to add an intern day for Logan. Twice a month, he participates in our church's intern program for homeschool students that are in middle school and high school. So those days will be lighter for him than a normal Wednesday would be. But everything else is pretty much the same. I like to know what days I have to schedule school and what days I don't have to. And because we were dealing with so much in August, with my car wreck and my husband's surgery, we actually didn't get to finish all of his August lesson plans. He has like 3 things left. So we're going to do that this day, on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day. And then we'll start our new September lessons on Wednesday. But that just gives us a chance to close everything out. I can finish out grades, and then we can just start fresh with the new month. Because reading is part of our co-op layout this year, I always start his lessons with what book he's reading, because he also has to do a literary analysis for each of this book as part of his co-op presentations. So basically, I just go through, figure out however many chapters are in there, and I break it up so that he is done with his book by mid-month, maybe by the 3rd week of the month. But it takes him generally an entire week to do this. And in this case, this book actually, I was able to find activities to go with it, explanations about political climates, different literary devices, note-taking, comprehension questions. And I have found for him that this really helps him in order to be able to write a complete paper at the end of the book. He needs to have check-ins throughout the book chapter by chapter is best for him. But that way he has things that he can go back and kind of jog his memory when he's answering the questions for the literary analysis, because typically a literary analysis is going to be about the general themes and stuff in a book. They're not going to be just specific regurgitate questions. So I found that on Teacher Paid Teacher, and it was completely worth it. So all I've done here is I have broken up the chapters. I've written the corresponding pages that go with it. And then he'll finish this book. I think it's about the third week of this month. And that day here, we will talk about what his literary analysis questions are composed of. This is a time for me to check in with him and kind of really lay out the format of what he needs to be doing. And then you can see the following week, he will actually complete it. He will outline, rough draft, revise and edit, type, and then we will grade it. And then we will present it at co-op, I believe, the following week. Now, I will play this by ear because we won't have co-op until the following Friday. If this is taking him a long time or he's really struggling with some of the questions, then I will let this take 2 weeks, because I would rather he took longer on it and it was quality work than we pushed it in a week just for the sake of completing it. Especially since this is taking the place of a writing curriculum this year. So I want to be thorough about the writing process. In all honesty, as I'm doing the voiceover for this, I'm thinking it will probably take 2 weeks. I will probably go back and revise this. I also try to find another book that goes along with the genre that he's reading. So this month he's doing Animal Farm. So we're learning about the Russian Revolution. This was an excellent book that I read. The ending was a little disappointing, but it totally goes with the theme. So I do have to break these books up and give him them almost as an assignment. But that's all. And that's just so that he stays on track and on top of it. Otherwise, it'll be the last day of the month and he will have completely forgotten to read the book. So other than just using it as a checklist for him, that's the only reason it's in the lesson plans. So when I do these supplemental reading books for him, these are not books that he will ever have any assignments on. Typically what I do is I assign a few chapters, because like I said, he does need it in a checklist form. If I just say, hey, read this book by the end of the month, it usually either doesn't happen or it's the last day of the month and he's freaking out because he hasn't done it. He just does better when he can see things that are expected of him. But these are things that I'm adding in either to give him like a different perspective on the time period that we are reading about or the event that we're reading about. But also, these I treat more of like a book club book. So we will talk about it, we'll discuss it. Most of the time, these are books that I have already pre-read. Sometimes they are not. The one he just finished for World War II, that supplemental book, Prisoner 3087, I believe it's called. I haven't read that one. It was recommended to me by another friend. And so it's actually one I'm going to read because it's just an interesting topic for me. But these books are never an additional assignment. I am just trying to widen his reading horizons, because he tends to pick very specific genres and kind of stay in the same area all the time when it comes to picking his own free reading books. But also trying to give him different perspectives on whatever it is we're learning about. Or maybe it was just a book that I felt was really good and it applies to that situation. So this is something that I would really encourage to do, especially with your olders, because it's such a nice thing to be able to foster a discussion with your kids about books that you guys can read together. And a lot of the middle grades, young adult novels, they're actually quite enjoyable as an adult. So it's been a cool experience for me that we can talk about books with each other and like kick ideas off each other. And it's not just a picture book, that I'm doing with my younger kids. Or kid, just one kid, whoa. But I really encourage as your teens get older, even if you have multiple teens at one time, to do like a family book. It doesn't have to be a read aloud. Kudos if it is, because teens love to hear books too. Don't let them fool you that they don't. They really do. But also, just that you guys can kind of bond over a different thing or have a discussion about something different. It's just a really fun thing. And it's been something that's been really cool as Logan has gotten into high school and we've started to do that. This is our second year using Apologia curriculum, and the thing that I love about them is that they give you a schedule that they recommend, and it tells you everything to do for each day. This is also what is listed in the textbook for Apologia, so I don't have to write all of this information down. In the lesson plans, all I have to do is make sure that Logan knows what module we're in, what week we are working on, and what day we are working on. And then he can just make sure that he's in line with what I'm doing. I chose not to do lessons on this Friday because when I wrote these, we were going to buy my new car after getting my other car totaled, but it worked out fine because my mom's house flooded that day and we had to go help her and obviously didn't do school. But here you can just see I just followed to the next week. We do one day every day. I try to line the study guides up so that they are on a Thursday or a Friday so that he has the weekend to study and then take the test. But if not, then I will give him one day for the study guide, one day to study, and then he'll take the test the following day. And then we just pick right up the next day with the following module. I don't wait or really take a break in between modules unless he just needs extra help. Math is awesome. Teaching textbooks just takes you right through it. He can do it from his laptop or from his phone. And so I just go through and write down one lesson a day. We do 4 lessons a week, and that gives us a cushion day also in case he needs to review a lesson or double up on a lesson. Also, I usually skip at least one subject on the days that he does intern. Sometimes it's math. It's usually one of the harder subjects that take him a little bit longer. And a lot of times I'll skip the electives too, because intern starts in the middle of the day. And so I focus on what I want him to do that day. These subjects are pretty cut and dry. Fix-It Grammar lays it out for you, one thing a day. We do a few health pages a day. He has one Bible devotional a day, and I just kind of fill that in. The nice thing about Fix-It Grammar is that usually I can make that a 5-day lesson. We do the lesson on the first day, and then after that, each day he does a correction. And there's only 4 days of corrections. The cool thing about that is if we were to need to double up because of what our week's schedule looks like, the lesson is short enough that he can do the lesson and then also day 1 in the same day. And you can see I've had to do that here. If we have a 5-day week, then I will break it up and I will do the lesson on Monday, and then days 1, 2, 3, 4, I just bump those all out so that he has a little bit of grammar every day. But if we have a short week, then I can combine it and it works for us. So for Mystery of Histories, the lessons are set up really well. They do start with a pretest, but we often skip that section and just go straight into the lessons. They are 3 days a week, and after each lesson, which is usually 1 to 2 pages of reading, then they have activities that are broken up by age level. So this is a curriculum you could use with elementary all the way through high school. Then as you go through the lessons, there are always some sort of activity that has to do with a timeline, and they also have the students make memory cards. And these are just fact cards to help them study for quizzes or also later on for longer tests. So they also have what they call the Wall of Fame, but it's just essentially a timeline. You can put this up on a wall, or we are just using graph paper and including it in a section of Logan's notebook. And then each week they have a quiz, And this is what I use as a weekly grade. I will also go back sometimes and use some of the activities for grades, but I usually stick with the quiz most often. So you can see here, we just do one lesson a day. Then he gets a day to do the memory cards and the timeline, and then he has a quiz following that. The nice thing is these activities don't always have to be completely done. For example, these 2 days, the activities required him to write a paper. I didn't need him to do that, but it was a good discussion. Whereas with this one, the written part of the activity was actually necessary. So that one I had him do in its entirety. For Spanish, all I do is just make a checklist for him that he does 2 lessons a day. Duolingo reformats their app pretty frequently, and so I don't always know what unit, but I know he's doing lessons. So I hope this video was helpful just to give you kind of an idea of how I break things up, how I make space for other activities in our week or even just in Logan's day. I will be making a video for what we used for curriculum for 9th grade. And then I'll probably just add in some of 8th grade for that as well, because we started doing some of our high school credit work in 8th grade. So I will probably just combine those and do an 8th, 9th grade video, at least so you can just see what we used for curriculum that counted towards high school credit. That was a request and I am working on it. Like I said, August for us was August was a really hard month. I was in my 2nd car wreck this year. My car ended up being totaled. My husband had surgery and we started school. And so I think we did really well given the fact that we had all of that going on. But I think I am a little bit behind on my videos. So just know that I am reading your comments and I really appreciate them. And I am working on coming up with some of the things that you guys have asked for. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day and an awesome September for homeschool planning. We'll talk to you soon.